Edinburgh, Senior Conservative William Hague there for us this morning. Mr Hague, a very good morning to you. First of all, I'd like to talk to you about the situation in the Mediterranean with these migrants that are being killed there. Obviously from your days as Foreign Secretary, Ed Miliband has come out this morning and he's saying inaction here is a stain on the European Union and no price is too high on resuming these rescue operations. Where do you stand on this one?
Well, nobody's calling for inaction. Of course, it's just what are the best actions to take. And the ministers from across Europe who discussed it yesterday agreed that those actions must include action against human trafficking, better work with other countries within Africa, a strengthening of the what's called Triton, which is the Italian border security service that is also rescuing people. And heads of government, including the Prime Minister, will meet on Thursday to discuss in more detail exactly what should be done. So nobody's calling for more inaction, but the reason that the more extensive rescue service that was there a couple of years ago was stopped was because all the evidence was that more people died when that was in place than in the previous years. So there isn't any quick fix or simple solution to this problem. Otherwise, we would have found it over the last few years.
Yeah, I know you were talking about no one wants inaction. This is what Save the Children actually want. I spoke to their spokesperson today. I hope you can hear what she's had to say. Here we go.
We need on Thursday for all EU governments, including the UK, to agree to restart the rescue with immediate effect, which means that each EU member state puts in funding and offers support like personnel and boats so that we can go back to the situation where we're running a search and rescue at the capacity that Mare Nostrum was. And that's what we need William Hague to agree to, that's what we need David Cameron to agree to.
Yeah, everybody wants to do the right thing. What do you think the right thing is?
Well, the right thing is going to be some mixture of the measures that I was just talking about, and I absolutely heard Save the Children calling for restoring what was called Mare Nostrum. This is when the European Union had a rescue service that went right up to Libyan waters across the Mediterranean. Now, what actually happened when that was in place was that the people traffickers took even more people out in unseaworthy boats, and as I said, the evidence was at that time that more people drowned as a result than previously, and that's why there was agreement all across the European Union to stop that. Now, clearly, the current situation isn't working either. So it needs that mixture of action against the traffickers, better work with African countries, and of course, in the long term, the answer is to have more stability and prosperity across Africa as a whole. These people are coming huge distances across Africa. And no country, few countries do more than Britain to promote that stability with our development aid.
Okay, talking about Britain's role and just a view from you, where would you stand on just getting rid of these boats and these ships in their port? There has been a theory put forward that if you destroy them before they leave port, you reduce the problem or you get rid of the problem.
Well, there is a case for more action against the traffickers, absolutely. And again, that's what ministers from across Europe discussed yesterday. But that's going to have to be talked about in more detail by the heads of government, including David Cameron, when he goes to that meeting on Thursday. Because of that, of course, that also raises legal problems. It means you have to be very confident about what you're doing, that you're getting the right people, that you're going for the right boats, and so on. So again, not a simple matter. It's a good thing to do in principle if it can be done, but exactly how to do that will have to be worked out.
Mm-hmm. I think yesterday the Foreign Secretary was talking about everybody should do their fair share. What would Britain's fair share be in all of this? Should we be preparing Britain to take a certain amount, and if so, how many of these migrants and rehome them?
I don't think the answer to this is to relax immigration controls in the European Union generally or in the United Kingdom. That cannot be the answer. Uncontrolled immigration is not the answer to anybody's problems and would probably create even greater flows of people out of Africa and into the Mediterranean and into these desperate situations. So that is not the answer. Of course the UK will play its role in whatever is agreed at the European Council meeting that the Prime Minister goes to on Thursday, but we'll have to see what that agreement is and then see how we can best play our part in that.
One of your political problems at the moment is the possibility of a Labour SNP coalition today entering the fray and having his say, former Prime Minister Sir John Major, and it's saying that he will urge voters today to reject what he terms a weak and unstable Labour government subjected to what he says is a daily dose of political blackmail by the SNP. Now, this is being described as a deeply personal intervention. Is that because he knows what blackmail's all about?
Well, he's a very experienced former Prime Minister, of course, who has dealt with, yes, many difficult parliamentary situations. And this would be the mother and father of those difficult situations. A Labour government dependent on Scottish nationalists, and that would mean the people who want to break up the United Kingdom would be calling the shots in running the United Kingdom. I think that would be disastrous for the UK. They would want to set Scotland against England. And vice versa, and of course it would be terrible for our economy because they would be demanding higher taxes, higher welfare bills, and weaker defences all the time. So the answer to that is to have a Conservative majority, and that's what I will be campaigning for here in Scotland today.
And, you know, many would say that John Major knew all about that sort of blackmail in the 90s in order to obtain the support of Northern Irish unionists.
Well, he was a Prime Minister with a small majority, but he did at least have a majority for most of the time. What we're faced with here, if the election goes the wrong way from our point of view, is that the only route for Ed Miliband to be Prime Minister would be to be dependent on the Scottish National Party, and he would have no choice about that. To win votes day by day in the House of Commons, he would have to win the votes of Scottish nationalists, and they would call the tune. They have said, Alex Salmond has said, that they would then be able to call the tune, and that would be very divisive for our country, catastrophic for our economy. So a very different situation from what John Major faced in power, but he's absolutely right to warn about this. It's one of the things people have to bear in mind over the next 16 days to the general election.
Well, we look forward to hearing what he has to say today. We'll get full coverage of that on Sky News today. Appreciate your time.